Hi, how are you? Well, I'm a little more sober now. In fact, I am sober. I got kind of a little tipsy last night. I did a Facebook and YouTube live stream. Actually, with the YouTube live stream, I did two YouTube live streams. And for some reason, it got cut off at first time, and I came back around and I basically just watching. I was watching the election results with some people on a Facebook conference thing, and I was actually doing minimal conversations with people on YouTube as well, and just trying to make sense out of this whole damn election. And what a clusterfuck it was. I've never seen anything quite like it in my life. Mm, not one bit. So, well, let's go and review. 2020 happened. We had a pandemic, we had economic decline, borderline economic collapse, we had civil unrest, and we had Donald Trump. It was this was just absolutely just it was kind of like it was just a very unusual situation. It was like a combination of the turmoil of the 1960s and early 70s without the relatively good economy meets basically a, a, um, a softer version of the shit that went on in the Weimar Republic in the 1920s, early 30s. And no, before the conservatives here get upset, I'm not comparing Trump to Hitler. I'm just talking about the civil unrest. The Antifa and the Proud Boys clashing, and and that kind of thing that's been going on. Well, so it's just been a very unusual year, and boy, if that's not the understatement that's ever been made. It's very much an understatement. So 2020, the election happened, and I'll be upfront. I voted for Howie Hawkins for president, Angela Walker for vice president of the Green Party. Make no apologies of it. I just could not vote for Joe Biden. He was politically too conservative for me. I considering that there were really hardly any third party candidates for some of the lower offices. I voted for Cal Cunningham for the U.S. Senate, and I voted for Roy Cooper for governor, and pretty much for the Democrats down the line. So I voted Green Party for president, and the Democrats for everything else. My vote for the Democrats was not done with a great deal of enthusiasm, but Republicans down here in North Carolina running for office are quite insane. So it was just like that's what I did. I voted Green and then vote for the down the line Democrat for everything else. Well, here's the thing. Joe Biden is the projected winner of this election right now. So we stand. However, everything looks when it's all said and done, it looks like once it's resolved, it looks like Joe Biden won this thing. That's what it looks like. And in the name of lesser evil, he is the preferable. He is the preferable choice in the constraint of the two bad choices we have. And I'm going to go on later why I am kind of okay with Biden being president or winning this thing, even though I'm not particularly excited by Biden himself. Um, but let's not rest too much because there's still going to be disputes with the various states in this country. Some of the battleground states they're going to be disputing, and we got a little red mirage that took place that looks like Trump did fairly well. That could be overshadowed with the mail-in ballots, and what they're planning to do is they're planning to cry fraud when there's not. I personally vote at the voting booth on election day because that's how I operate. But I'm all for early voting, absentee ballot, mail-in votes. I'm for doing what it takes. I'm for doing what it takes to have to have it so that people could vote. If I had it my way, I would declare um, I would declare election day as a federal day off for people across the country and try to make it easy for everybody to be involved in the political process and vote. But Donald Trump has packed the courts or stacked the courts, shall I say? He stacked the courts, and with the stacking of the courts, I think he's going to try to pull a little bit of the skullduggery and do what George W. Bush and their henchmen did down in Florida in 2000 on more of a national scale on a level. And that's what I'm predicting. But I'm going to tell you what went wrong for Trump. Why? I mean, and what I'm about to say about Donald Trump is to compare to Donald Trump of 2016 to the Donald Trump of 2020, and why he was foolish in ways that he wasn't 4 years ago. When he ran in 2016, he did not run as a conventional Republican. I mean, he downplayed the religious right bullshit. Yeah, he did reach out to the religious right, but at the same time, he's kind of socially moderate. Um, um, he focused on economics. People's jobs being downsized and outsourced and that sort of thing, and there is a lot of uncertainty for a lot of people in this country, and that's why places like Ohio and Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin went to Trump the last time because of the economic uncertainty that happened. And he promised he's going to do what he can to keep those jobs here and keep these jobs here in America and keep and everything. And so he focused on economic populism. If I had to compare him to anybody, I would compare him maybe to Juan Perón of Argentina, uh, in that regard. Yeah, leaning right, but focusing on certain economic populist themes that appeals people who might be left of center oriented. But he also focused on bad things like xenophobia, making comments like immigrants coming here are rapists and drug dealers and gang members. I suppose some of them are good people. Attitude. I mean, that's that kind of thing. So obviously is just uncalled for, and to sit there and to demonize whole groups of people is just it was just wrong. And I don't personally think that Donald Trump is a bigot, but I do think that Donald Trump certainly took the Southern strategy into another level with regard to immigration, and so he used these kind of issues to play on the fears of people who feel like their way of life is about to be gone, you know. And that was very unsettling about him. But so, but on the issue of economic themes, populism, he almost advocated. I mean, like with the healthcare, he said get rid of Obamacare, but he promised something better than Obamacare. Which what it sounded like to me is he was campaigning on keeping Obamacare, but having a robust public option around. What one of my managers, who's German, said about a year ago. A healthcare system like Germany and places like that, Holland, basically, which are all basically a more glorified and generous version of Obamacare here, where they have public and private insurance working together, which makes the healthcare universal. And it sounded like that's what he was advocating. It's not Medicare for all. It's not what I would advocate. But I think that's what he was trying to convey to solicit support. Well, once he won and got sworn in, all the Goldman Sachs people, all the corporatists started coming in. He also campaigned against the wars, the neocon wars. All of a sudden, he's got the deep state people, the military industrial complex, all working with him. Now, I mean, you're not draining the swamp when you have John Bolton in your administration and Mike Pompeo and what's her name, Gene Haskell of the CIA. That's not draining the swamp. That's keeping more to the Bush bullshit, Bush Cheney bullshit in what's wrong what's wrong with the Republican Party, what's wrong with the American political system and the way it do things. So that that's what happened with the turning your back on the poor and the middle class, and ended up you know kind of placating toward the neocons when it comes to foreign policy, such as the bullying of Venezuela and the bullying of Iran. Although I will confess that Donald Trump's been good on North Korea. On that one, I have to give him credit for. He's done well on that. But the point is that if you're taking on the military industrial complex, what few good things he did was overshadowed by the strength of the military industrial complex and the neocons within the Republican Party, who would not have it as far as non-aggressive foreign policy. So I would say that had it not been for the pandemic and had he not started acting like a cliche culture war center Republican, he might have won this thing. But when the pandemic came out, I'm not going to blame him for the pandemic, but I'm also not going to go and praise him for his handling. I don't think he handled it well. The Republicans in the House and the Senate didn't handle it well, and the Democrats did not handle it well. Nobody handled this pandemic well. I will put it this way: nobody was Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand, the one head of state that handled COVID probably better than anybody else in this world, and her New Zealand Labour government came back. So and I said this before, New Zealand is actually the one country right now that's almost back to normal in regard to the COVID situation. If you go to New Zealand, it will be almost as if there's no such a thing as COVID now. I mean, they're taking precautions. Well, certainly nobody can accuse the American political leaders here of behaving like Jacinda Ardern, because she was the one to handle it well. But again, the handling of the COVID crisis, and then focusing on the culture wars, and placating to the religious right, placating to people who have racial fears on the white side of the culture in this country. That pretty much kind of did him in, and he didn't have. He just had nothing to offer but the same old cliche bullshit that you hear pretty much any other Republican running on. Now, am I saying he was his campaigns any more racist than previous Republicans? Not particularly. Because I think that usually when Republicans are running for president, they do exploit racial fears, and Donald Trump was no different. I mean, maybe his filters were not as was a little bit more loose than previous Republicans, but I think it was about the same, personally. But anyway, let me go on. So it looks like Joe Biden will be president. Now, the what was unusual was probably I've seen more left unity over Biden more than since the days of the Monica Lewinsky scandal when Bill Clinton was cheating on his wife, and with the whole Monica Lewinsky scandal. And um, even many of us back in the 1990s who felt betrayed and fucked over by Bill Clinton going into a soft Republican direction. We were compelled to defend him against the sexual McCarthyism that of people like Ken Starr and company. So we went and we did what we could to defend him, because really it was not just an attack on Bill Clinton. What the Republicans were doing with this, trying to remove Bill Clinton, was at that time, the way I looked at it, it was an attack on the left. It was saying, people on the left, stay in your place. Don't you dare stand up for yourself and advocate what you believe. And that's what, and so many of us on the left were like, no, right wing, fuck you, and so well, many of us, as I said, we hated Bill Clinton, but we did what we could to protect Bill Clinton's ass and everything. And we at least, while the Democrats did not regain the House and the Senate in 1998, Republicans lost some seats, and so in that regard, it was a good election. In that regard, well, Joe Biden kind of had the same amount of support because a lot of us don't like. I mean, in fact, a lot of us dislike Joe Biden more than we did Bill Clinton. But the thing about it is that we were united for various reasons. One, to get rid of Donald Trump, but and to try to restore back to normal. And there's a good normal and there's a bad normal. And unfortunately, I think that in trying to support Joe Biden, who stood for nothing, is a return to a kind of a bad normal, even though it's a good thing that Trump's been removed from office. Well, the left will not be thanked for this, and the left went out of their way to make sure that Joe Biden was elected, and partly was Trump. Everybody, whether you're a corporate Democrat or you're a Bernie Sanders style social Democrat ideologue, you pretty much looked at. We pretty much had to put our differences aside and vote Biden. As I said, I voted for Howie Hawkins because I just could not bring myself to vote for Biden. But let me just say this. Now that Biden, it looks like he's going to be president and sworn in a few months. That's how it looks, unless things change, unless the skullduggery of Donald Trump takes place. He's going to coddle and appease those never Trumper Republicans. Those Republicans who are never Trumpers that hates Donald Trump, not because of his policies, but because he doesn't have his filters. He doesn't have any filters, and he's bombastic and crude, according to these people on the center right that don't like Donald Trump. They love him on the policies. They hate him on the demeanor. The left will not be thanked, and Biden's going to reach out to the corporate. I mean, to the corporate Democrats, yes, but he's also going to reach out to the never Trumper Republicans. So what you're going to see in the next 4 years, especially with Joe Biden, and I don't see any reason. I think it will still continue with Kamala Harris as she takes over. Is you're going to see a combination of Obama at his most conservative, and maybe a combination of that and the Bush Cheney era at their most liberal, which both would be unacceptable, because the Bush Cheney era, even at their most liberal, which was nothing liberal about Bush and Cheney, is still too conservative for me, and let alone what the corporate Democrats have to offer. So the left will be ignored, and it's going to basically embolden the Democrats to stay on this DLC corporate Democrat course that they're on. The Lincoln Project is now the new Democratic Leadership Council, and I'm going to probably do a commentary on why I will tell you that the Lincoln Project is the new Democratic Leadership Council. Um, as for Congress, looks like there's not going to be much of a change. I mean, the Democrats are going to pretty much remain in control of the House, and it looks like that the Republicans are going to remain in control of the Senate. That's how it looks, and it's pretty much just so close with both parties that I don't think a whole lot's going to be done. So all the never Trumpers and the Trump supporters that love the conservative policies and hate what Bernie Sanders stand for, I am sad to say that you rest easy because Biden's going to go and play nice with the Republicans and at in Congress, and he's just going to disregard the progressives in the Democratic Party. Um, so and so there's not going to be a lot of fundamental change that's going to take place. And Joe Biden was right when he said that there will be no fundamental change if he's in charge. And I I take him at his word. I've never heard anybody say anything more true in my life. Um, is there is it all bad from my perspective? A self-described democratic socialist that supported Bernie Sanders and view him as a hero and have and who supports the squad in the U.S. House of Representatives, who is a supporter of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and all the other left-wing currents in the U.S. House these days. Is there a reason for me to be optimistic about a corporate centrist like Joe Biden being president? Would there be any good coming from this? This is what I have to say. Um, Donald Trump was wrong to pull us out of the Paris Accord. And I think that Biden would put us back into the Paris Accord. It's not perfect, but we have climate change challenges. And maybe I would probably be inclined to disagree with progressives saying that we only have 10 or 12 years. I won't go that far, but I do think we have a problem with the environment. We have global warming, and it is largely man-made, and we need to reverse that course. And I do think it's imperative, and I do think it's is that we need to do it. And at least with the Biden presidency, we can look toward science and not corporatists on the Republican side who are fundamentalist Christians. I think that the Supreme Court will be is stacked right now with the Trump appointees, but we might be able to reverse some of the damages later on in the courts with better appointees. Now, I personally think that maybe if the Democrats can get in charge, they may need to find a way to change the courts to make sure that this super shift toward the right doesn't take place anymore. I'm kind of mixed on packing the courts, and it could backfire. It might be some temporary good at it, but maybe 10, 15 years down the road, we don't know what could happen, that it could end up burning the left at the end. So I think that maybe what needs to be talked about is the whole idea of term limits for Supreme Court justices. 10 years. 10 years for Supreme Court justice. The Iran Treaty. One of the best things Obama did was the peace treaty with Iran. I mean, Iran ain't the threat that Saudi Arabia and some other countries in the Middle East are, and they keep on the right wing keep on saying we're giving money to Iran. That money belongs to Iran. We froze their financial assets in 1979, 1980, when the Ayatollah took over. It's their money, and they don't commit terrorism against the West. Certainly not to the level of, let's say, Saudi Arabia, which the United States is constantly, um, you know, um, as Tulsi Gabbard says, Trump was Saudi Arabia's bitch. I hope that with Biden coming in, that Biden will not become Saudi Arabia's bitch in the way that Trump was Saudi Arabia's bitch. So we need to go and get back into that peace treaty with Iran, which was working well until Donald Trump wanted to listen to the military industrial complex, the secular neocons, and the evangelical Christians who are all wanting to have a war with Iran. So there you have it. And I probably will be talking more about this election as the week proceeds, and see what happens. So I will be talking more. Everything I've said for the past 26 some minutes here, I might actually go into more detail later on, and everything. And if I sounded a little bit incoherent, is because I got a little bit. I got drunk last night as hell, but and I'm a little hungover right now. So anyway, I let me just say that's that's what needs to. I'm going to discuss more of this later on. Well, let me just conclude by saying, if you like what you heard, press like and comment, and comment anyway. Even if you don't like, share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you that if you're passionate about something, you want to share it with the world, by all means, do so. And if you don't have a platform, create one and utilize it, because we're all the muckrakers of our time. And of course, let me convey and emphasize more than anything else, please subscribe to this channel, make it grow. And until next time, I am American Social Democracy, peace, and Bernie Sanders for president in the year 2024.